We'll call the meeting of the June 9, 2022 City of Hayes Commission meeting to order. All commissioners are present. First item in the order of business is a consideration of the approval of the May 26, 2022 meeting minutes. Any questions or comments on those? Nope. Okay, they will stand as approved as presented. Any citizen comments for non-agenda items? Nope.
Come on.
Everybody's looking at Wes.
Okay, no consent agenda to be approved. First thing we will do will be the city attorney contract.
The City Commission solicited requests for qualifications for city attorney services. We received one proposal. That was from Don Hoffman with the firm of Dryling Beaker Hoffman. A contract was developed and is being presented to the commission for consideration. It is a one-year contract with a one-year auto renew that can be terminated by either party, and it does have a firm 2-year end date. And so it is being presented to you for consideration and approval.
I move approval of the contract for city attorney services between the City of Hayes and Donald F. Hoffman with the firm of Dryling Beaker and Hoffman, LLP.
Seconded.
We have a motion by Commissioner Jacobs, second by Commissioner Burgess. Any questions or comments? Okay, if not, I will call for a vote. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 5-0.
Welcome,
Welcome.
sir.
Thank you, thank you.
Just a little swearing in job now.
That's next year's budget.
Yeah.
So Don, the city clerk will swear you in now.
Just want to.
Raise your right hand and repeat after me. I do solemnly swear
I do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the State of Kansas,
the Constitution of the State of Kansas,
and faithfully discharge the duties of city attorney.
and faithfully
Discharge
discharge the duties of the city attorney
of the City of Hayes, Kansas.
of the City of Hayes, Kansas.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Welcome.
Thank you.
I wondered if Kim had a thing to slide in there.
Add instructions.
At instructions.
Thank you.
Welcome, Don.
Welcome.
Welcome,
Glad
welcome.
to have you in the
You
firm.
get to know Oldfield much better.
Absolutely.
Very good.
Thanks for representing us.
It's going to be a challenge sometimes.
Sure.
We know that.
I've been through some challenges.
We're tough to get along with.
Well, sometime
I can
I'd like
tell
to
that.
change that to be exuberantly swear.
Exuberantly swear, yes.
Stay with me.
Enough gumption. All right, Jesse, nuisance abatement at 313 East 23rd Street.
Good evening. Jesse Rohr, Director of Public Works. Couple items for me tonight. The first being the request for approval of a resolution for an abatement of a nuisance at the property located at 313 East 23rd here in Hayes. So, as I mentioned, we've been working on this property for several months, trying to get the property cleaned up, especially in the rear yard. To date, no action has been taken, or very little action has been taken on the property, even though we've done all the property notifications. I mentioned last week that personal contact was made with the property owners. Well, today, staff made contact with them again on site. They haven't cleaned up the items yet as of today. However, they say, in the next few days it'll get done. So we're not gonna hold our breath. We'll go ahead and request that you approve the resolution. In the event they don't get it cleaned up, we'll go in with staff and clean up the property. So as is typical, if we do have to clean up the property, any cost for the abatement would be passed on to the property owner. They get an opportunity to pay the cost first. If they're not paid, then it gets assessed to the property in the form of a lien. Here's just a couple pictures of the property. This was a complaint from one of the neighboring properties. Mostly just trash. It is an owner-occupied residence.
It is an owner-occupied?
It is owner-occupied, right.
Wow.
And we just haven't had success in getting it cleaned up. So it initially started, there was a lot of issues in the front side yard as well. A lot of that was taken care of, but I think it just migrated to the rear of the property.
Just pushed it in the back, yeah.
So as is typical with this type of item, a couple options. You can either approve the resolution to abate the nuisance or not approve the resolution. If you do choose to do so, 10 days after the approval of the resolution is when we'd be authorized to go in and clean up the property. So,
I'll make a motion to approve resolution number 2022-009 to abate the nuisance items located on the property at 313 East 23rd Street, 10 days after the approval date.
Seconded.
Motion by Commissioner Musil, second by Commissioner Burgess. Any other questions or comments for Jesse?
10 days is the Sunday, the 19th. Would we do it on the Sunday? Am I looking at
we always go the following Monday. So we have to wait at least 10 days. We don't have to move in on the 10th day. So.
All right. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 5-0. Thank you, Jesse. Next up, the proposed ordinance adopting modified flood regulations and new flood insurance rate maps.
All right, so now I want to talk about your consideration for adoption of new, or I should say revised floodplain regulations, which include adoption of new floodplain maps. So a little bit about the floodplain first. For the city of Hayes or any community like ours, in order for our residents to be able to purchase flood insurance, we have to be part of the National Flood Insurance Program. To be part of that program, a couple things have to happen. We have to have a floodplain regulations adopted. We have to have a floodplain administrator. In our case, it's Curtis Dinas, our planning and development superintendent. Part of the regulations include adoption of the maps as well. So in early 2017, Ellis County was selected for a what they call paper inventory reduction project funded by FEMA. Then in early 2018, following that up, Ellis County was then selected for a FEMA risk mapping assessment and planning project to update the flood mapping within the county. The intent of the project was to update the still current and the most new, or the most recent floodplain maps, which are dated 1986. So you can imagine there's been a lot of changes to the city of Hayes since 1986. The new maps utilize new technologies, including what they call LIDAR, which is light detecting and ranging, which is, they say, 10 times more accurate than the data used on the current maps that were drafted in 1986. There was a kickoff meeting held February 21st, 2018. So you can see it's just been a little over 4 years, the duration of this particular project. The final step in the entire process is the adoption of the regulations, which, as I mentioned, also include the flood maps as well. If adopted tonight, they will become effective June 15th of 2022, so next week, Wednesday. Here's a list or summary of the various tasks that took place during the project. We're now at the bottom, where it says map adoption. So what do the maps look like? So through the draft stages, working stages of the project, and as I mentioned, this was a countywide project, so not just Hayes, but the whole county, the city of Ellis, Victoria, and all other areas. So when the maps came out, they were done in this format, so we could look at the maps to show, and they would indicate what's remaining in the floodplain, properties coming out of the floodplain, and properties that were not in the floodplain previously and will be going in. So as you can see here, the yellow, those are all, they were in the floodplain in 1986 to current, and they'll remain in the floodplain. The red areas will be added to the floodplain. They weren't in the floodplain previously, and everything in the green here will be coming out of the floodplain. So all in all, for the city of Hayes properties, when the new maps are adopted, we'll have about 258 fewer properties in the floodplain than we have currently. There were about 332 removed, about 74 added. And so all in all, this is a good change for us. It still leaves us with almost 1,200 parcels in the floodplain. I think we rank about first or second in the state of Kansas as far as actual number of parcels in the floodplain. So we have a lot.
Jesse, when we look at those parcels, are they mostly residential, are they mostly commercial, or is it a mix?
There is a mix of both. I would say the majority of them are residential properties.
And the ones that were added, that as well?
As well as the ones that were added. There were, a couple of significant areas that were added, fortunately aren't that dense, such as up here, which is the 12th Street area. This is kind of like behind O'Laughlin, behind the T&P ball fields, things like that in there. There's some areas here that were removed. A big chunk of this here is like Countryside Estates Mobile Home Park. Almost half of that park was removed from the floodplain where it was in before, so that's a good change for that property. So
Jesse, that was my question. That looks like the main area, the yellow there. Why would that be removed in the middle there, that green? Down on the bottom there.
because of the ground, just due to ground elevation. So you have the highway there, 183 coming through there, and then the ground around it. So the technology they used and the modeling they used now versus 36 years ago or longer when they studied and did the current maps, as you can imagine, is much more effective, and so they should be much more accurate. One thing that did change are actual base flood elevations. Some are higher, some are lower, and that data is available to us now as well. So this is a little closer to what the final draft maps look like. Different colors, but same layout. The blue and purple areas I should say the royal blue and the purple are 100-year floodplain areas. The kind of real light blue color that's kind of hatched there, that's what they call floodway. Those are like the actual water channels themselves, in this case, Big Creek. We have some floodway areas along some of the channels like Chitola as well. So as I mentioned, the process took just over 4 years from the kickoff. Throughout that process, there was a flood risk review meeting that was mostly staff and community officials from the entire county. That was June 5th of 2019. Kansas Department of Ag staff and the city county staff all participated. Besides that, there was an open house meeting. That was November 6th, 2019. During that meeting, letters went out before the meeting informing property owners of the changes, and it was well attended. We had a lot of citizens come to that meeting. The engineers that worked on the maps were there. Kansas Department of Ag officials were there. FEMA officials were there. And they were able to look at the draft flood maps and view and comment on those. So here's just one more view of the map, just a little bit closer, kind of again, the downtown area. Of course, most of our floodplain is in the downtown area. Again, the different colors indicate the different flood zones and the floodway. And the adoption of the revised ordinance that's in front of you tonight will, as I mentioned, it'll allow the city of Hays and really the entire county to remain part of the National Flood Insurance Program. Without participation in the National Flood Insurance Program, residents here would not be able to get federally backed mortgages if they're in the floodplain. So while this is kind of a housekeeping thing that we're doing, it's a rather important one. So besides the new maps, there's a couple other changes as well. In your packet, you have the entire set of floodplain regulations. As we have to, anytime we change the floodplain regulations, they have to go through the state of Kansas engineer for review and approval. We've got the signed draft from the state. And so they review our changes and they make recommendations to our current regulations. A couple of the changes that I would think are more significant than most. There's one that we call them cumulative improvements. So the floodplain regulations allow you can spend up to 50% of the value of the property on improvements before you have to meet FEMA floodplain regulations. Current regulations don't have a cap on that, so it just adds up. If you spend some money this year or next year, once you hit that 50%, current regulations don't allow you to do anything in the future. Well, we're capping that at 5 years, so basically there'll be a 5-year clock on it. And so after that 5 years, it'll basically start over. So if you reach that 50% threshold, after a 5-year period, you can do more improvements to the property. So it's definitely a benefit to property owners and developers to have that in there. And again, that's a FEMA approved and state approved allowance that we have in the regulations. One of the other changes is the reduction of an accessory structure size before floodplain regulations have to be met. And we're reducing that from 700 to 600. Current regulations have 700 square feet as the minimum. However, the FEMA standard is 600 square feet. Even though we currently have 700 in there, if anyone were to do something more than the 600, it would require a floodplain variance anyway. So we'll go ahead and request that we change that to 600 square feet per the FEMA standard. People still have the variance option, the floodplain variance option, if they choose to go larger and can't or don't want to meet the floodplain requirements. So your options, of course, we'd recommend that you adopt the revised floodplain management ordinance as proposed. If you have any further amendments you'd like to those, we can consider those. Or we can leave them as it is and drop out of the National Flood Insurance Program. And this would be the action requested.
I move we approve ordinance number 4011, adopting the revised flood management regulations and updated flood maps as drafted.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Barrett, second by Commissioner Musil. Any other questions or comments?
I just had one quick question. So the cumulative improvements, right? Even if we didn't put the 5-year cap on it, you know, if they get a $200,000 property and you put your $100,000 of improvements in it, but 10 years later, the property is now worth $250,000, could you then keep adding as long as the property was?
Yes, you can actually, and one thing FEMA doesn't really determine is how the value is determined. You can use market value, you can use appraised value, you can use tax value. So there's different ways. We usually tell people take the highest value you can find for obvious reasons. But yeah, as value increases, that is another way in which they can increase what they spend on the property.
My friend said it's worth $1 million. All right, if there's no other questions or comments, I'll call for a vote. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Passes 5-0. Thank you, Jesse.
Thank you, Jesse.
Thank you, Curtis. Have fun with the new maps. All right, Commissioner inquiries and comments. Commissioner Barrett.
I'm just enjoying summer and seeing lots of people out at the ballparks. And I drove past there. It was amazing with the track and everything going on. So we managed to avoid the hail, but we did get some.
Hold your breath.
Yeah,
There's things coming tonight.
So just enjoying summer.
Commissioner Jacobs.
It's fun watching our community enjoy summer. I particularly drive by the Arc Park on a very regular basis, and they absolutely love it. I hope that the water park is not a problem for our staff. I'm looking out there, Curtis raising eyebrows, because they love it. The kids absolutely love it. And I think the nicest thing about it is, you know, when I took my kids to the pool when they were little, no matter if you had this much water, you couldn't take your eyes off them. I remember visiting with a friend one time and turn around, my daughter's face is down. Well, out there, moms can sit and converse and enjoy, and the kids are running around, and there's no real danger except slipping and falling. And I just, I have to commend it every time. And I want to welcome again Don Hoffman and the firm Darling, Beaker and Hoffman to the city by contract. Thank you.
I just want to commend staff for what they put on last night with the new fire station, the viewing. And I wanted to ask a question, if people that weren't able to go there, how can they find it? Is it on our website, on how they can view it, or will it be available to them?
We can make it available on the website. We can make the options and the desired option available. And we can also put a contact page on there where they can contact the fire chief or the deputy fire chief.
I just think it'd be a good idea, because I know there wasn't a lot of people there, but there's a lot of good stuff with it if we could. So
Yeah, we can put up a page pretty easily.
yeah, thank you. I want to thank actually John Bird and his firm for what they've done for the city of Hayes for many years, and welcome Don Hoffman. I appreciate you being here, and look forward to getting to know you a lot more. Thank you.
Commissioner Burgess.
It's not well thought out, so nobody hold this against me.
Uh-oh. We're going well.
Probably seen, there's some news, the city of Ellis implemented a curfew because of vandalism and I guess general nonsense going on over there. And some of that comments come to us, the city, and we're not certainly looking into anything like that, but the city of, the police department here has recently issued today break-ins, lock your cars around Hayes. We've had vandalism at the Arc Park here in Hayes, so I guess it's just a general frustration of in our communities of, I guess parents need to kind of I think it's more with teenagers and that kind of thing. I know it's hard to police, and so I don't know how much a curfew is going to enact over in Ellis, but it's one of those frustrating things in a community that we have great amenities, a safe community. So I guess keep an eye out a little bit for your neighbors and keep your kids a little bit better under control. Like I said, it's not the most thought out process, but I've just seen a general frustration in the last week or so in our communities with vandalism and break-ins and those kind of things. So let's just enjoy our summer and not have that frustration.
I wonder if kids don't realize that there are video cameras on so many homes. I wonder if they really don't realize it.
I don't know if I've seen a house that doesn't have some kind of ring camera or something. Well, you guys all had really good comments. I'm looking forward to the Historic Fort Hays Days. I think that's going to be really cool to check that out with my kids and see all the fun things that's happening there. It's been beautiful weather out. We've been getting some moisture. It's been nice. Hopefully not enough to use the maps as we need to. Yeah, that's really all I have. Welcome aboard, Don. It's good to have you. Look forward to working with you. Other than that, I have nothing. Okay. We will adjourn at 6:51.